Texans advance to 7-5 on the season after a close win versus the Denver Broncos. Defense shines and a career day from Nico Collins. All of that and more on this Victory Monday.
You are Locked On Texans, your daily Houston Texans podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome. It's a lot of madness on this Victory Monday. Welcome to the Monday episode of the Locked On Texans podcast, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Kicking off this Monday. If this is your first time listening or watching the Locked On Texans podcast, be sure to subscribe, like, and comment to the Locked On Texans podcast on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Thank you to all of our returning listeners lending your ear for another episode of the Locked On Texans podcast, and this time a Victory Monday for the Houston Texans as they celebrate a 22-17 victory over the red-hot Denver Broncos. I'm your Texans football analyst, John Some Sports Guy Hickman. And as always, the man with the plan, whether it's in the locker room, at the press conferences, behind closed doors, or sitting up top in the press box, Cody Davis, Sports Illustrated's own. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. The Texans are still in the hunt for the playoffs as of right now. The standings for the playoffs after the Pittsburgh Steelers lost, the Texans are sitting at the 8th seed, 7-5. A career day for Nico Collins. Tank Dell, unfortunately, is out. So we have to look at how the Houston Texans went about the game today and how they can move forward. But we open up this game, Cody, looking at how the defense shined against the Denver Broncos. It was a team that came in red hot, winners of 5 in a row. We saw the Houston Texans limit Russell Wilson, only 186 yards on the day, 3 interceptions, sacked 3 times, a QBR of 20.3, a QB rating of 53.2. This defense gave every opportunity to the Houston Texans offense to pull the game out. And honestly, they were the reason this team won the ball game.
I know might be, I'm going to say the third time I've said this so far this season, but I'm going to say it again. And I think every time I repeat this statement, it becomes more and more credible. John, listeners and viewers, I will consider this one of, if not the best defensive performance of the season. Only because let's first look at coming into the game. The Denver Broncos, even though their defense, after they gave up, 60, 70 points to the Miami Dolphins, their defense have been top half of the league. They came into this game over the last 5 games during their 5-game winning streak. They recorded about 15 takeaways. This defense has played really good, but the offense has played really good as well. Finally, this offense, along with Russell Wilson, finally, everybody bought into what Sean Payton has been trying to do all season. And this is an offense who came into this game, 5-game winning streak, averaging somewhere in the ballpark still of 23 to 24 points a game. John, the Texans not only did not allow them to crack 20 points, but they limited them to 17. And I understand it. There was about 1 or 2 drives that the Broncos had where they had an opportunity to score. One of it was, I believe, a 42-yard touchdown pass between Wilson and Cortland Sutton, if I'm not mistaken. I believe that took place in the third quarter. And, the Broncos were still in this game. However, John, when you look at what this Texans defense did, especially in that first half where they made the Denver Broncos offense look so much discombobulated, I look at this from a standpoint and I say this is definitely the best defensive performance of the season, especially considering the breakout games of Will Anderson Jr. and Derek Stingley Jr. By the way, John, I want to apologize to the listeners out there and the viewers out there. Because remember a couple weeks I said that Steven Nelson was CB number one, and rightfully so. We had a couple people in the comments who disagreed with me. And the main thing I said, I believe we had addressed it on our YouTube show. I believe this was the game right when Derek Stingley Jr. came back from his hamstring injury where he missed 6 games. I said, and I've always been this way, John, you could attest to this. I'm always and always have been a believer in Derek Stingley Jr. My issue is, 1, he has to stay healthy, and 2, I got to see the Derek Stingley Jr. that we saw in 2019 in LSU. This man has recorded not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 interceptions since he came back from that hamstring injury, and I can honestly say, starting today, that Derek Stingley Jr. is cornerback number 1, and what that young man showcased against the Denver Broncos is the reason why the Texans made him, not Amar Sauce Gardner, made him the number 3 pick in the 2022 NFL draft. And I know a lot of people are going to give him praise and respect to not 1 but the 2 interceptions that he had. By the way, one of them was a tip pass from Will Anderson. We'll
Monster day.
A little bit later. But John, the play that stood out to me was when I can't remember who the receiver was. I want to say maybe Jerry Jeudy, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it was Sutton.
Sutton? Okay, so it was Sutton. Second quarter. Burn. Basically the whole entire secondary. And you saw Derek Stingley Jr. make up at least, 5 yards? And was able to get the pass deflections. Remember, I looked at you and said, is that mythical 4.3 speed that we all was hearing about heading into the combine? Because remember, he never ran it the 40, but everybody kept talking about this speed. To see the hustle that Derek Stingley Jr. gave on that play, that's when I say, you know what? Thank you for everything that you did, Steven Nelson. But as of right now, Derek Stingley Jr. is CB number 1, and there's nothing wrong with him taking the helm as CB number 2, because this is what it was supposed to be throughout this whole entire season. Shout out to Derek Stingley Jr.
I want to shout out the entire defense. We're talking about the defense shining versus the Denver Broncos. Everybody at all levels played a part, right? So we're looking at highlighting Will Anderson, his breakout rookie performance. What did I tweet? I call it the rookie legacy game for Will Anderson. 2 sacks, several, I think 4 QB hits, maybe more than that. A tackle for loss, was impactful in the run game. He had a very good game. John Grenard got in on the sack, so he had a good game. And I thought that they played well together, causing a lot of times for Russ to either have to step up in the pocket and scramble. So now you're looking at the defense causing broken plays for the opposing team's offense and the Denver Broncos, or just getting that pressure in Russ's face. We look at the very last play of the game. Bernard is right in his face. And how did that impact Russell? Well, another interception right to Jimmy Ward, who Jalen Petrie called Michael Jordan. I thought that was funny. Right? You look at the linebacker group, they had with Denzel Perryman coming back. They had an up and down day, but you still saw guys go out there and make plays, right? And I think the secondary, right? You highlighted Petrie. I'm not Petrie. You highlighted Derek Stingley. Petrie was very impactful for the Houston Texans in their run game. But the return of D. King, Desmond King had a phenomenal game for the Houston Texans. I mean, he got in on the action with a couple of tackles for losses for the Houston Texans. Came up and made some great plays for Houston in the open field, kind of limiting what that opposing receiver or running back or whoever, the yak yards they can pick up. So that was good. Jalen Petrie with a tackle for loss. This team defensively was flying, and Jimmy Ward said something that I think is very true. I don't know how long until the NFL is going to be flag football, because I thought the hit on Russell Wilson was a clean hit. But what's most impressive for this Houston Texans defense, holding that Denver Broncos offense to a goose egg on 3rd downs. Out of 11 tries, they converted on None of them. And the Denver Broncos had time, right? Honestly, the Houston Texans offense was giving the game away to the Denver Broncos. And we'll talk about that in the next segment. But the defense was so impactful, did a very good job of limiting the big plays that the Denver Broncos offense could have. And then you look at Houston's defense, only one touchdown in the red zone allowed out of 3 tries. So this team came to play. They were getting the offense for the Denver Broncos off the field. They gave the opportunities to the offense to go and win their game. Offense, how many field goals?
I want to say 3.
3 field goals, 2 TDs. This wasn't a game where the offense took over and shined. This was clearly a defensive game, but the defense did everything in their power to give their offense the opportunities to be who we've seen them to be. The Bucks, the Steelers, the Jaguars. They've been able to put up points throughout the year. But we got to highlight Derek Stingley, and who better else to do so than his class 2022 draft classmate, Jalen Petrie, who called him a wide receiver playing DB.
Mr. Petrie, man, so y'all held the Denver Broncos to 0-11 on third downs, consistently gave y'all offense an opportunity to put points on the board. How does that feel knowing that this is a hot team, 5 games in a row they won, and you guys did everything defensively to hold them off?
Yeah, it was fun, man. I had a good time out there with my teammates who was out there executing, people making plays. Like, it was one of the funner games of my career.
My next question is, what were some of the adjustments that you guys were able to go through quarter in and quarter out, especially with the last 5 minutes, the last 5-minute stretch to kind of just win that game?
I think the biggest thing was just honing in on our details and executing our assignment. Like, we didn't really change nothing up. Coach was real. He stuck to his approach that we practiced, and we executed. Michael Jordan ended up making a play at the end of the game, so happy for that, man.
Lastly, you guys had an opportunity. You personally had an opportunity to get drafted with Derek Stingley last year. And I know, on social media a lot, there's been a lot of talk of what he is or what he isn't. Just the last 3 games, can you talk about the greatness of him and coming away with 2 interceptions for this game?
Yeah, he's a baller. Like, you put the ball in the air around Sting, he gonna go get it. Like, he's a receiver playing DB. So, I'm happy that he's on my team. It's good to have him back making plays. I'm really happy for him. All the work that he's putting in is starting to, continue to pay off for him. So, we're just trying to keep this rolling and just trying to continue to make plays.
This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. It's the holiday times, and we got family coming in, family going out. Everybody's getting together. Sometimes we can kind of get wrapped up in the holidays, in the family time, and maybe we forget about what we have going on in our own personal lives. And, that's really okay. Holidays can do that to you at times. But I also think that with the holiday time here and the families coming together, this is still the perfect time to look at therapy for yourself. Therapy is meant to help better yourself. Whether it's starting therapy, going easier on yourself during tough moments, or treating yourself to a day of complete rest, remember, give yourself some love this holiday season. And I think therapy is one of those self-gifts that can really help. If you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suitable to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist today, and you can switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Right now, we are in the season of giving, where we overlook giving back to ourselves. So give yourself what you need with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. I love this, man. In the season of giving, give yourself what you need with BetterHelp. The college committee got it right.
Sure they did.
D'Amico said it too. He went to Bama.
That was funny. He talking about, so y'all ain't gonna ask me about Alabama? Of course they supposed to be in.
That was nice, man. Shout out to D'Amico. Did a very good job of turning this team around. 7-5. I had an opportunity to ask him about the fate of this team right now compared to the last couple of years. And I know he wasn't here, but one thing that I love that he highlighted, looking at the team, 7-5, clawing back from the depths of the bottom of the NFL. Everybody's just coming in and doing their job.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's prepared. I do want to highlight the savior of this franchise. You know who the savior is, right? D. Millie, don't be silly, came in for 2 plays while C.J. Stroud was out, actually completed a pass for 18 yards and looked good. With this team, everybody is prepared to come in and do their job, and the faith that they can get it done is resilient, and the resilience of this team is phenomenal.
And you talk about the resilience. The one thing that we've been talking about ever since training camp, unfortunately, has been injuries. And boy, this one right here, I'm not going to lie. I don't care if you're a reporter, fan of the Texans, or just a fan of football in general, man. Your heart has to go out to Tank Dell, who went down with a fractured leg in the first quarter of this game, man.
Yeah.
You know, you could see it, John. You were sitting up there in the NRG Stadium with me. You could see the hurt and the pain and everything that was on the player's face and stuff. You know, later on, you know, we had an opportunity to see how hurt Tank Dell was. He was having a phenomenal rookie season. As a matter of fact, last week. On the way of 1K, speaking of 1K, we got to talk about another wide receiver that's like 9 yards away from 1K. But, you know, going back to Tank Dell, understand how sensational his rookie season has been. Last week, we had an opportunity to talk to Andre Johnson. And Andre Johnson said that Tank Dell is next in line to be the next great Texans wide receiver. And you're talking about a short list that only includes himself, D-Hop, and depending on how you feel about Brandon Cooks, but definitely D-Hop and Andre Johnson without a shadow of a doubt. And to get a true sense of the loss of Tank Dell, this is what C.J. Stroud had to say.
I'm lost words, man. I honestly don't know what to say. Like, you see, like, your brother put in so much work, be so helpful. Like, one thing about Tank, he's very unselfish. And to see him go out, like, game of football is tough, man. It's tough. We fight our tails off every day to make people happy. We put our lives on the body. I mean, our bodies on the line, time and time again, man. And to see that happen, it's cold. It's not easy. I gotta be there for him. So more so than anything, like, forget football. Like, Tank as a person, I know it's gonna be tough for him to get out of that. And who knows, man? He might be back playing Super Bowl. Just try to be positive about it, but it's tough, man. I'm hurt. I can't sugarcoat it. I can't come up here and lie and say, like, oh, we'll be all right. No, it's not. You know, I love him to death. I told him that. And 7-3 will be a great duo for the next couple years, man. Right when he gets back. You know, who knows, man? God works in mysterious ways. Might not be that bad of an injury. Who knows? I don't really know. So I love my brother to death, and I'm praying for him, and I'm here for him no matter what.
I truly do believe when you take a look at some of the struggles that we saw from this offense, I think a lot of it had to do with the loss of Tank Dell.
Absolutely.
Now, look, I get it. I understand it. Coach D'Amico Ryans and his team has done a phenomenal job in having players step up due to injuries, unfortunately. But I think a lot of the times when the Texans offense just looked out of sync, it was more so the fact that they did not have Tank Dell out there. Just having him out there, even being used as a decoy, means a lot to this offense. Speedy recovery to Tank Dell, and in the words of C.J. Stroud, that 7-3 connection is going to be dangerous for years to come.
Yeah. And man, I wish it was 7-1-3.
And
I also wanted to say, I saw a lot of why would he be down there? Why would, whatever the case is, he's a football player. And I'm not saying he's a guy that plays football. I mean, he is a football player. So while the injury is unfortunate and you hate to see it, I saw a lot of why would you have him down there in the mix? Now he'll learn from this later on. Of course, this is his rookie year, but he's a guy that just probably loves football and wanted to get in on that action. And sometimes, guys, it's the smallest guys that just want to be around and that physicality of the game. Right? I saw Steve Smith do it for years.
And to that point, really quick, I'm sorry to cut you off, but when you go back and take a look at that play, Tank Dell is one of the guys who actually created a hole in order for Dameon Pierce to score that touchdown. And what is one underlying factor that a lot of us have been talking about, but haven't been talking about enough, given how exciting that young man has been on the field, is his blocking.
Yeah, he's I mean, why would he be down there? He's a football player. Because I do want to go back to your point before highlighting Nico Collins. What Tank Dell, obviously what we're seeing, and a lot of us saw it before, but when he's not on the field for a whole game now, you really see it. Tank Dell opens up so much for the other players in that skill position group. Right? And so I'm looking at outside of Nico Collins, who, again, give us a moment. We'll talk about the day he had. My man, Nico. Outside of Nico, John Mechie, 1 catch. That's your other receiver. Noah Brown, 2 targets, 0 catches. Nothing for Robert Woods. Xavier Hutchinson was inactive. And so my takeaway is how good of a job Tank Dell does for opening up things for, like, he's on the field. Robert Woods, I think, is much more impactful for this offense. Same for Noah Brown, even though I think Noah Brown dropped 2 passes today. One, it was on the sideline catch. He didn't get his feet in. Great effort. But he did drop a pass over the middle that would have helped Houston extend that drive. But he was a non-factor. Robert Woods, non-factor. John Mechie, out of his 3 targets, only caught 1 for 9 yards. And I think one of those catches, if I remember correctly, was not really catchable. But non-factor. And so not only does Tank Dell does a very good job of opening up opportunities for other receivers from a quarterback standpoint, and it's going to be interesting to see. It's going to be interesting to see how they go about this week of practice. But from a quarterback standpoint, the connections that CJ has right now is Nico and Tank Dell, who just went down. And he looked off throughout this game. This was not a good CJ Stroud game. Obviously, we know about him opening up the game on the 4th-and-1 play call, 3rd-and-1 play call, missing, throwing the ball behind Andrew Beck. He would have walked in on that touchdown. So that's 7 points potentially that ended up being 3, missing out on 4 points on there. But then I think the throw of the game that if he connects on this, the NRG Stadium, Texans fans, and it wasn't a lot, we'll talk about that as well. But the wide open John Mechie.
Yes, man, that hurt.
Where John Mechie would have ran that in. Nobody was 15 yards from him. And he would have been able to hit the post that we haven't seen him hit since college. And I think that's due to just the chemistry being off, right? And John Mechie, we talked about this on the Friday show. John Mechie hasn't gotten a lot of opportunities and reps with the quarterback. So, the tendencies of, is he going to continue to break on his route downfield? Or is he going to stop right here to give me an opportunity to maybe not make the throw a little bit harder? And I think that's what impacted CJ today. He did not have the best of days. I know he threw 4 touchdowns to Nico Collins, but he did not have a best of day. Out of the 5 sacks, I'm looking at CJ Stroud. I think he accounted for at least 2 of them, maybe 3. Late in the game, the Denver Broncos defensive front did make things difficult for the offensive line for Houston. But yeah, man, the man of the game, without a shadow of a doubt, 9 catches, 191 yards, 21 yards, 0.2 per catch, a 59-yard catch, a 52-yard catch. Nico Collins, 9 yards away from 1,000 yards. Cannot talk about it enough. The ups and downs this young man in his first 3 seasons, 3 head coaches, 3 OCs, for 4 or 5 different quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And he continues to prove that he belongs on this team. Does Houston need to go out and look at a wide receiver too?
No.
We may be looking ahead. Houston may need to look at that wide receiver core altogether. but Nico is a damn good wide receiver. And today, I talk about CJ not being on the same page with, maybe a Noah Brown or Robert Woods. Every time they needed a big play, Nico Collins bailed them out offensively. And this is also from a quarterback that did not have the best of games. Nico Collins had a monster day. And before we move on offensively, Damian Pierce did run in a touchdown. 15 carries on the day, 41 yards, 8 carries for Devin Singletary, 36 yards, 4.5 yards per carry. Houston only rushed for 89 yards on a day. I was completely wrong about that on the crossover. I thought Houston would be very, very successful running the ball, 3 yards per carry. But I also thought that Devin Singletary deserved more carries in this game. And with Dalton Schultz going down, the talk of the week was how will Brevin Jordan respond? 3 catches, 64 yards for Houston. And I also thought that in his very first start, Juice Scruggs had a good outing. And this is an offensive line. We're looking at CJ being impacted by Tank Dell going down and maybe being discombobulated in terms of connections and chemistry. This is an offensive line that has been battling that injury bug and that issue all season. I thought the rookie fared well today. Hey, listen, guys. If you're like me, it's the holiday times. My mom is a big Anita Baker fan, right? And we love Sweet Love. We love Rapture. We love it all from Anita Baker. She's coming to Houston. And I think to myself, this would be a perfect Christmas gift. She already got the grandbaby. Why not get her a ticket to go see Anita Baker? And what did I do? I went on Game Time, the app. Made it super easy to buy a ticket. You shouldn't have to worry or stress when you're buying tickets to your next big event. Game Time takes all of the stress out of buying tickets. Sporting events, music, comedy, theater events near you. Game Time has killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and best price guaranteed. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. With zone deals, you pick the section and Game Time picks the seats for an average of 18% savings. And Game Time guarantee means you'll get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. It's super easy. You know what you got to do, guys? Pick up your phone, download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off your first purchase. Again, download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Lowest tickets, last minute tickets, lowest price. I guarantee it. Welcome back in, Locked On Texans listeners and viewers. Guys, playoffs.
It's happening. It's happening.
Playoffs?
It's happening.
Playoffs? The Texans beat the Broncos. They came into this game both 6-5. After 70 points allowed in the first couple of weeks of the season, and after the last couple of seasons, the Houston Texans have had one of the more improbable teams making the playoffs. Sitting at 6-5. Head-to-head, they had to win this game because if they lose and the Denver Broncos ended up with a better or similar record and it comes down to the last spot, Denver would have had that tiebreaker over Houston. So this was a big win for the Houston Texans. Also, the Cleveland Browns lost against the Rams. The Pittsburgh Steelers lost. So you're looking at 2 7-5 teams that lost. Now Houston still has to go play the Cleveland Browns, but with their head-to-head victory over the Pittsburgh Steelers, that puts them in the playoff hunt in that wild card spot. And I do gotta say kudos to Indy. Anthony Richardson goes down. Shane Steichen's doing a very good job over there. Being able
they got Gardner Minshew, so let's not act like Gardner Minshew.
Let's be real. At this point, have you seen Gardner Minshew play football?
Yeah,
not very good. Not very good.
Well, I'm not about to sit here and say, "Oh my God, he's a franchise quarterback." But the Gardner Minshew I've been watching over the last couple of years, matter of fact, his whole entire career, he can hold it down for you. I mean, he's not about to be a Pro Bowler, but
he's serviceable.
He's a serviceable quarterback. Remember, take it back a couple years ago, just show you how far the Houston Texans have came. Remember when the whole Watson stuff was going on? Remember, I was like, the Texans should have signed Gardner Minshew to get them over the hump for at least the 2021 campaign.
Yeah.
So, you know what, shout out. But since we're talking about that game, first of all, that was a crazy game going on between Indy and Tennessee.
And Tennessee Titans really had that game won.
I don't care what D-Hop did. Will Levis should never open his mouth in disrespect an all-time great ever again. I felt some kind of way. I felt some kind of way when I saw that.
Accountability is what that team needs at their quarterback.
Who is Will going to be accountable for what? What has he accomplished? Nothing. You saw how he blew that game.
Okay, back to the Houston Texans. With the Steelers losing, that puts Houston again back in the playoff hunt with a wild card spot. Mm-hmm. And they take on the Cleveland Browns in
December 25th. December 24th.
24th, the Christmas Eve game. That's going to be a big game. That's at home for Houston. Texas fans, please go to the game and get there on time. But this has been a crazy Sunday for the NFL and the playoff implications. Right now, the Houston Texans should be a wild card team. I think that this is just a start of something different. The stench of being bad is leaving the NRG Stadium, and the Texans are a Cinderella. They are a Cinderella team, but none of this is a shock and surprise to a few of us. This team was a quarterback and a head coach away, and now we're seeing it. I do want to say, moving forward, Houston has to figure out how to get consistent contributions from their run game and do a better job with splitting carries between their running backs. I think that maybe short goal, you're looking at, Dameon Pierce, and then you figure everything else out with Devin Singletary because he is the better back for this team. Shout out to Brevin Jordan for having a good game, man. That was amazing to see. Thank you guys for listening to this Victory Mondays episode of the Locked On Texans podcast. Be sure to subscribe, like, and comment on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. In the meantime, follow me on Twitter at John_Hickman12. Follow the Locked On Texans page at Locked On Texans.
As always, I'm your host, Cody M. Davis. Please remember to follow me on Twitter at CodyDavis_24. Once again, it's Cody, COTYDAVIS_24. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, peace.